Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stevenson, the Odd Man. He'll unpack wisdom and insights from a cross-section of top quality performers in business, media, sports, entertainment, and lifestyle to uncover key elements to help you live your best audacious life ever. So without further ado, here is the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations, I'm Audley Stevenson, and I'm back for another edition of the most audacious podcast the internet has to offer. You've got it locked into the Audacious Living Podcast, and I really want to thank you for joining us here and spending some time out of your day as we continue our ongoing goal of helping you live your best audacious life ever. As always, I encourage you to connect with us through our social media channels. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram under the handle The Audacious Pod. And then if you head over to Facebook and you type in The Audacious Living Podcast, you'll find us there as well. And then, of course, if you're watching on YouTube, then you know that there's a notification bell down below, and you can subscribe to our channel. So we have all kinds of great ways to stay connected to us. Like, follow, subscribe, share, and let's keep this good old audacious conversation going. That's just kind of how we do it, right? We're all about audacity. We're all about audaciousness, and this episode is no different. But we're going to focus a little bit on and spend some time talking about the power of our minds, and specifically our mindset. Our mindset is that thing that helps us make sense of the world around us and helps us to shape how we view it. It's a lens that we put on everything we look at, and everything we look at is through that lens. And again, that's what shapes our viewpoint of the world. I know we're all familiar with that phrase, viewing the world from rose-colored glasses. It's essentially that theme, if you will. Your mindset essentially colors how you view and see the world and how you see things. So if you alter or adjust or change your mindset, let's say from a negative to something more positive, then things tend to follow suit and things make much more sense, and the way you see the world is much more positively. We got Pam Christian, who stops by on the podcast for an in-depth conversation on improving our mindset and on why it's so important to us. She's a great person to have this dialogue with because as a mindset coach, she helps individuals begin that pathway to healing so they can get to a better place and live their best lives. In addition to being a mindset coach, Pam is also a speaker and soon to be author, and you're going to hear about her book. She'll tell you a little bit. It's not out yet, but she'll touch on that and give us a flavor of what it's all about. And then lastly, she's got her own podcast called The Juice, and hey, you know what? Podcasts got to back each other up. So certainly I had an opportunity to check out her episodes. She does a great job, and really it just serves as a wonderful platform for her to further spread her message. So I've told you a little bit about Pam, and maybe this is an opportunity where I stop talking and give you a chance to learn more about Pam Christian. So without further ado, here's our conversation. Enjoy. Looking forward to hear you talk more about what you do. So if that's good, let's just get started, right? That makes
sense. Your show. Let's do it.
Okay. Well, Pam, first off, thank you for being here with me on the Audacious Living Podcast. I'm really looking forward to our conversation. So thank you.
Absolutely. I'm excited to be here.
I wanted to, so I'm very much, having positive, good experiences, and I wanted to make sure that that this was a good one for you. So I was thinking, well, what can we do? What can we do maybe special or different? And knowing how much you like to play games, you like rapid fire, I thought maybe I'd fire a few your way and see how it turns out.
All right.
No time clock. We'll just throw them out and see where it goes. Obviously, no wrong answers, right? These are your responses. So let's start off. What's your favorite drink?
Water or a green juice?
A big source of inspiration for you. What would that be?
My higher self.
Gotcha. Summer or winter?
Both.
iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Yeah. What's your favorite number?
Oh, you're really asking my questions. My favorite number is 11, 1111. Everyone knows that.
Chocolate or vanilla?
Both.
Yeah, well, I'm a chocolate guy, so I'm out of it. Well, anyhow, that's good.
I love vanilla, but I love chocolate and a good piece of dark chocolate. Yeah,
Okay,
that's where
okay.
it's at.
Okay. Favorite subject in high school?
Socializing.
Is that a class? Because
It wasn't my world. It wasn't. I made it a class.
I think I got E's in that one. So
Yeah.
Advice you'd give to your younger self now?
Go easy. Be compassionate. You're perfect just the way you are.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Young people need to hear a lot of those sorts of messaging, don't they? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
If you could choose or select to be an animal, what would it be?
Either a unicorn or an elephant.
Got you. Truth be told, I was always a big kangaroo fan as a kid. I don't know why, but that sticks.
Because a little baby in the baby pouch. So cute.
It could be all sorts of reasons. Who knows? But I'm a big kangaroo fan. What's the last thing you watched on Netflix?
Oh, my son just got me into a show. It's called Black Mirror.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's interesting.
It's a collection of all sorts of different,
Yeah, he told me his favorites and I'm watching them right now.
Gotcha. Sunrise or sunset?
Both.
Favorite color?
Blue.
Yeah. And then lastly, there we go. Blue. We're on
I thought you were wearing blue. I'm like, he read about me. No, I'm just kidding.
Then lastly, what does success look like to you?
Peace, joy, and happiness.
Happiness. I agree with you all on those. Absolutely. Happiness is a big one for me. I think life is Pam, life is having fun and enjoying the moments. And I think there's such pleasure when we can do that. The hustle and bustle of life sort of draws us to and forth, and we sometimes forget that piece of it. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
I think we mostly forget that piece. I think we've lost it because we've been conditioned to believe that we're grinding for something that will eventually make us happy. But then we get to that place that we were grinding towards and we forget that that's where we were grinding towards. And so we get there and we're like, wait, this isn't enough. I now need to go towards this. And we never experience that happiness. So happiness is right here, right now with Audley Stevenson. That's it.
Awesome. Listen, so thank you. I'm very happy as well that I'm here with you. And it's that process, that journey, Pam, that we take along that way. So oftentimes we'll focus on that final destination, that outcome, and we'll think that once we're there, once we kind of get to the top of the summit, we've arrived, and sort of lost sight of the fact that those steps along the way where maybe we faltered or fell back and had to reposition, or the big word we use is pivot, right? And so all these things come into play, and I think that's where the real joy and appreciation of the journey comes from, for me at least.
I mean, it's definitely where the growth comes from. It's definitely where, perspective comes from. I've been to the top of the highest mountains, and I've been to the bottom of the lowest valleys. And you know what? There's something in all of it, in each one of it. But it's about us deciding to see the thing that's there. And we can't do that if we are not clear in our heads, if our energy systems aren't clear, if we are so clogged up all the time. So it's really about working on yourself, because happiness is not outside of us. It's inside of us. Right.
It's so easy, again, to lose sight of that, where it is. And I think that's where the idea of having just perspective really comes into play, that, this valley that I'm in now, this isn't where I'm supposed to be or meant to be, or ever. That's where I'll be forever and ever. Amen. That, there is, an opportunity to come out of that. That's the perspective comes in.
It is. And it's the thing is, for people, it's really hard because they're not taught that. No one teaches you that. So you either have it within you, you've sought out like-minded people that teach that. Otherwise, people are like, well, why can't people be happy? Why can't they find it inside themselves? But when you don't have the tools, the resources, the support system, which is why I like to be here for people, it makes it really difficult to understand, wait, maybe they're right. Maybe Audley's on to something, and it's actually the way I'm looking at it. Maybe I need to reframe. Maybe I need to ask if my perspective is on point. But people don't even know to do that.
Right. Right, right. And here you come in as a mindset coach to help with that. Perhaps we, as a starting point, well, we started already, but as a starting point, maybe you can sort of give some background as to what got you to where you are now and in this type of work, because it's certainly an important field of work for many.
Yeah, and I am a mindset coach, and that's the term I use for societal purposes, but really what I consider myself as a healer.
Mm,
But when you use the word healer, there's a lot of connotations attached to it. So just for the ease of people understanding what I do, and I got here through my own healing. I have healed myself and I am still healing and I will be healing for till the day I die. But I've gotten myself to a really good place and I've done all the things most people have done. I've checked every box or people want to do box that society has told us to check. I had a
right,
majorly successful career. When I say successful, you know what I mean.
right.
Financially, the
Yep,
accolades, the
yep.
awards that
The thing you
I
chase
married.
after, right? The thing you're told to chase after and get.
Yep. Got married young, had the 3 kids. By the way, those 3 kids are the best things that have ever,
Amazing.
ever, ever occurred in my life. And they are the best things that will ever happen to me. But got married young, had the wedding, had the job, had the spouse with the job, had the house, the white picket house, had the 2 dogs, all of it. Yet I was dying inside. And it didn't make sense based on what I followed the prescription.
Yep.
I followed it. And so then I started really looking inwards and working with myself. And it was not easy. It's painful because you have to meet yourself. And there are parts of you those shadow parts that are not pretty. And I was not pretty. And I was mean and I was hurtful and I hurt other people. But most of all, I hurt myself. I hated myself. And so, it takes doing that over and over again because you go to different places in your life and you're at different milestones in
Yep.
your life and you have to re-meet yourself because you're
Yep.
continuing to grow and evolve.
And that's sorry to cut you, but that's
Yeah.
so critical, Pam, because it's first off, it's difficult for people to even come to that point where you're looking dead at yourself and you're meeting yourself, as you said, and you're looking in the mirror and you're seeing the ugly parts, the thoughts and the shadows that you put in the shadows for a reason. And now those are the things that you have to actually confront. It's not easy for people.
No, it's not easy because what happens is the wound that happened when you were a child or your teenage years, it may have felt really bad, but if you had just dealt with it then, it
Mm,
would be nothing compared to the way the wound is now. And
right.
now there are many, many wounds on top of that one wound. So you have
Yes.
to peel the layers of all the hurts and feel that and deal with that. And I'm telling you,
Yeah.
I've been in fetal position on the floor. I watched my marriage crumble. I watched myself crumble. I had to admit to myself my mistakes and my wrongdoings, not only to others, but to myself. And it's not pretty,
Right.
but it's kind of like a caterpillar. Like you're a caterpillar and
Good
you're in the
analogy.
cocoon and
Yeah.
it's gooey and it's
Yeah.
messy and
Yeah.
it's sticky and it's like all these things that are gross. But that butterfly that emerges not only brings life to the butterfly itself, but to the
Yes.
world. We love butterflies. Butterflies are beautiful.
Absolutely.
It's light.
Absolutely.
It's
No,
going through the darkness.
yeah, and that's a great analogy because it's a new birth. So when you talk about healing as an example, yeah, I attribute healing very much to a form of growth. It really is just coming past. So those wounds, those ugly periods that you've got in front of you, the whole idea of getting to the other side of that, where the growth and you spread your wings and the beautiful butterfly emerges, and it's just to get there for people, right?
And I think what happens is people don't see the progress fast enough. So they give up. It's not working on me.
Right.
I'm supposed to be a victim. It's not, I don't get this opportunity. That person, Pam gets it. She's different than me, but I might look different. I might sound different, but I am you because we're all each other, number one. But if you knew my story, which I won't go into now because it'll be in my book. But if you knew my story, you would say, okay, maybe it's not my exact story, but she's had as much adversity and difficulty as I have. It's just a
Yeah.
choice. And I
Yeah.
chose myself. And I want you to choose yourself to the listeners every single day.
Yeah.
And some days that might be meaning lying on your couch and watching Netflix.
Okay.
And other days it might be meaning spending 2 hours, meditating, doing self-care, going for walks. Each day it looks different. Don't put pressure on it.
Yep. And that's okay, right? Knowing that this is a conscious choice. And I'm glad that you raised choice because I wanted to get into sort of the power of choices and the things that happen to us when we see a situation. We can choose to perceive that as a bad thing or an opportunity to grow, but it is coming down to our individual choice.
And that choice is so important. And I think the thing about that choice is not only knowing it, you have to interrupt your patterns. So you might be the type of person who anytime something negative comes into your mind, you live there. You decide that's what's right and you stay there. And it has to be whether you have something on your wrist that's like a rubber band that you snap or something else that snaps you out of that. So you can say to yourself, wait, is this true? Does it have to be this way?
Right.
But if you can't even get out of yourself to ask yourself those questions, you're going to live in this space. And sometimes it's taking your phone and the night before putting in your alarm reminders, check in with myself, tap in, tune in. Is this where I want to be? So that at 10 o'clock in the morning, after you've done 2 hours of work and your boss is all over you and you're in a bad mood, it reminds you to say, wait, do I need to still be in this bad mood? Does this need to take me down all day? Or was it a quick blip?
Yeah. And again, that whole checking is so important because there's things that live with us, that reside with us, that maybe started in our childhood. And we just accepted it as facts. So when we talked earlier about the wounds are just how my life is because they've always been there. At no point have we sort of pull that rubber band and go, wait a second, like, why is this happening the way it is? And start questioning those things.
Right. And how can I change that? And actually, you don't even need to have the answers. Just having the questions brings awareness to it and makes a shift. And then one day you'll want the answers, but don't start with the answers because you're not going to know the answers.
That's right.
It's just asking open-ended questions.
Well, and sometimes the answers aren't with us anyways. Like, so we've got to ask that to know, well, okay, where do I need to go? Are there other people I need to bring in? Are there resources? Are there podcasts I have to listen to? Like, I mean, there's all sorts of things. So the answer doesn't have to come with us because a lot of times if we knew the answer, we would have done it already anyways.
And the more you start seeking out the information from others, the more you're going to figure out, okay, oddly resonates with me. Pam doesn't. I'm going to stick with oddly for now. And then all of a sudden you're going to grow and you're going to be like, wait, I kind of like Pam. Pam has some good things to say. But then what's going to happen is all of a sudden you're not going to need the other people.
Right.
Because you're going to figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you, which is going to be different than what works for me. And all the information is going to be within you because it is right now, but it's just the wires are crossed and there's so much static and you can't tune into that. But when you can tune into it within yourself, nothing else matters. You're not going to need anyone else.
I've got this analogy of sort of the windshield wipers, right, in a car and it's raining and you can't see until you kind of wipe it away and you got a clear vision of where you're trying to go to.
Absolutely. It's a great analogy.
Yeah, no, I'll let you use it. How's that? Is that okay?
I'm going to. I'll credit you.
I appreciate that. I've heard you talk a lot about having an emotional toolbox and the significance of that. I wonder if you sort of expand further because I really I think that's an important even skill, or I was going to say, well, it's skill, but really it's that piece to have that we can draw into.
And what it really is it's self-love. It's self-love, the emotional toolbox. And I did not love myself at all. And so I had to build a practice of loving myself. And it was hard. It wasn't comfortable for me because, why we're taught to I'm ugly, I'm overweight, I'm a bad person. Why we're taught to live in that space and be more comfortable there than saying, wait, I'm amazing, which I am. I'm awesome. I'm powerful. I'm valuable. That's where we want to be. And when you start practicing self-love, that's where you go. And so it's this emotional toolbox. For me, it's all up here. But for someone just starting out, you can write it down. You can put it in notes on your phone. You can put it on your computer, whatever. And your emotional toolbox is a toolbox of tools that helps uplift you emotionally. And sometimes it doesn't mean you like all of them. Like, I do not like taking a cold shower, but I know that taking a cold shower does something for me. Right. I don't always like to meditate. So I have all these tools. I'll tell you about some of them in my toolbox. Okay. And so I wake up in the morning and I say, what tools am I going to pull out today? What am I going to do this morning before I get going? For me, they're non-negotiables. There are 3 non-negotiables: gratitude, prayer, and meditation. Every single day, no matter what. And if I can't do as much time as I want to, it's okay. I'll do less time, but it happens every day.
Right.
And then maybe I'm having a day that's a little more down because, believe it or not, Audley and we have days that we're not feeling great. And so on those days, maybe it's more of a chill day. Maybe it's more, okay, I'm going to conquer 3 things today, but I'm not going to get everything done on my list. Or maybe it's, I'm going to do the meditation, or maybe I'm not feeling the meditation, so I'm going to go for a walk. And on the days where I'm feeling really powerful, it's the things that can, really, really, really resonate with me and uplift me. And so what are these things? These things are, I said, meditation. These things are, diffusing essential oils, consuming, I don't mean consuming by eating, I do mean eating also, but consuming information
Absorbing.
that's valuable.
Yeah.
So what does your social media feed look like? Is it all your friends with all their beautiful bodies and faces that, you know, when you see them in person, they don't look like that, but on screen they do, and it's making you feel terrible about
Right.
yourself? Or is it things that are quotes that are bringing your life, satisfaction and happiness? There's, tea rituals. So you could go have your coffee every single day, but how about making a hot cup of tea that's really, really, really good for your body? It's grounding. What's on your television? What is even on Netflix?
Yes.
And it's really creating a frequency and a vibration that's so high that when you get knocked down, which we all do, you don't go down to here because you weren't starting here. You were starting here. So if you go down to here, it's much easier to get here. But if you're starting here and you go down, it's much harder to get back up.
That's right.
And so this toolbox is, people tell me different things all the time that I'm like, oh, I wouldn't want to do that. But I put it in my toolbox, and once a month I try it. And inevitably, at some point, I take it on because I've grown and evolved and I've started to like it. So don't throw anything out. Just put it in the dusty corners and pull it out every so often. But what your toolbox does, it's a commitment to yourself. Right. And what it does, it allows you the ability to keep yourself, your energy in a really good space. So on your worst days, it's more important to pull your toolbox out than it is on your best days. But you should be doing it every day.
Right.
And I don't mean to say should. You could be doing it every day and living a much better life.
Yeah. Well, and I just like I love the analogy, because what it lets you know is when you open up a toolbox, you got a hammer, you've got a saw, you've got a wrench, you've got a screwdriver, and any one of those can come in handy depending on what situation you're facing, as opposed to everything with a hammer, right? And it's and for instance, where the hammer can come in handy, right? But it also can be problematic if you're not using the correct tool in the moment.
Absolutely. And it's all about choosing yourself.
Yeah. Choosing. There we go. Back to those choices again, right? We have those choices I've left us. You touched on meditation, and so, I mean, full disclosure, I don't sort of actively meditate, or it's not part of my regular routine, if you will. But I still do think there's a form of meditation that exists in my life, and more so in those kind of quiet moments, and as opposed to a formal space or setup or a surrounding. I want to sort of talk about that a little bit, because I think there is a misconception about meditation a little bit.
Good. I love this question and I love this topic. So if you knew me when I first started meditating, I mean, I was a nervous wreck. I was anxious. I was self-deprecating. I didn't value myself. So when I would have to sit, and I'm going to go formal and informal, like you said, when I would have to sit and be quiet, it could be on the subway, like anywhere I was, it was painful for me because the thoughts would come up. And so people say to me, I tried meditation, it didn't work. And I'm like, what do you mean you tried? I sat there, but I couldn't do it for too long. Or I sat there and I was fidgety, or I sat there and I didn't have a clear head. Meditation isn't getting to the end where your mind is fully clear. That would be a beautiful thing if you could do that the first day you sat down, but none of us can. When people say, oh, I'm not doing it, I didn't do it right, what they've explained to me that they're doing is exactly right. Just sitting, not judging anything that happens. And when I say sitting, I don't mean formal sitting. So I have a formal space in my house where I literally go to every day and meditate. But my whole day is a meditation in addition to that. So I go for a walk. I could be listening to music. It could be music that fills my soul that I love. And it could be music that is like binaural beats or HZ tones that work with the brain waves. And that is a meditation for me. I could be doing the dishes. And if I'm really conscious and purposeful about doing the dishes and like washing them and looking at what I'm doing and really focused on that, that's a meditation. Cooking's a meditation. It's how you do the things that are, whether you're meditating or not. Are you running away? Are you trying to escape? Are you trying to leave? Those aren't meditations. But if you are sitting, when I say sitting, I mean being, if you're being, being present in what you're doing, that is a form of meditation. And also, a lot of the gurus recommend 20 minutes twice a day. To me, if you could do 60 seconds once a day, it's better than you were doing before. don't worry about how much or how little or what the results are. You've heard from enough people that meditation is valuable.
Yeah.
Just do it in any form you can, any way you can, and talk yourself through it. So, like, let's say I've cried during meditations, I've had the ugliest thoughts,
Right.
and it's okay. Those thoughts can only leave if you bring them up. So they have to come up to move out. Otherwise, they're
Gotcha.
going to stay tucked in. So whatever it is,
Say that again, Pam. I love it. It has to come up to move
to,
out.
to come out.
Wow.
Yeah. Otherwise, they're going to be in your body. And guess what happens when they are in your body too long? Your cells start picking up on them and they
Wow.
infiltrate into
Yeah.
your cells and your physical body. If you know Dr. Joe Dispenza, he talks about this from a medical perspective and a neuropsychological perspective, science perspective, which I can't, but your being is now, your whole makeup, your genetic makeup is now that person that you don't have to be. But
Right.
because of all these things that happen to you and you're holding on to them and telling yourself stories, he did that to me, she did that to me, I did that to them, I'm a bad person, I'm this, I should have had that, how did they get that promotion? That's now who you are.
Right.
But it's
Right.
BS, because
Yeah.
who you are at your essence is the person you were born as. And that we're all born as pure babies. And
Yes.
that's where our heart is, but we've closed our hearts. Meditation helps you open your heart up again.
Wow. It's powerful. It really is, Pam. It's powerful because, and I love the idea of just being present, right? You're being present in the moment. You're free from distractions, from the phones, from all the things around you, and you're focusing. So again, using the illustration of if you're focusing on washing that dish, right? It is a form of medication because you're focused. And interesting when you talk with the individual that talked about, it didn't work for me, meditation. I is there an aspect of this we have to be very clear on what we're doing and why we're starting, and so we'll know what the outcome should look like?
There is no outcome that there is no should. What it is,
Okay.
because I feel like it's a journey.
Okay.
And like people say, it should be clear or you're gonna like have less thoughts. And that's all true. But when we start to get attached to that, that's that destination thing again. And everyone's time frame is different. So if you just trust the process, which I know people hate hearing because we're in this instant gratification world. But if you trust that if you spend, I said a minute, 5 minutes every single day, in 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, you're gonna look back. I'm not going to say your world's going to be changed. I'm not going to say everything's great in your life, but what I'm going to say is you're going to look back and see that you're in a different place than you were 5 months ago.
Right.
I'm positive of that. And when you're doing the dishes and you're present with that and no distractions, whatever distraction comes into your mind, let it. And if you go down a rabbit hole, and if you're like, I can't believe my mom said that, and then she threw me out of the house and this and that and that and this, that's okay. That doesn't mean you're not meditating. That's what's coming up for you. That's what's bubbling up. And then when you're done, you move on to the next thought. And that's what we want to move through them. But in the beginning, you're going to get stuck on them. You're going to get stuck on things, and that's okay.
Yeah. Well, and our mind can take us all sorts of places if we let it, right? I mean, the thoughts and the things. Why did he look at me that way? Why did she suggest that? And we it's almost like we have to give ourselves a bit of grace and be graceful on our own thinking, the way we think through ourselves, because we can really do some damage.
And thoughts are things. And the only way to know if that thought is true that you're having about that person's thinking that thing about you is to ask them.
Right.
That's it. Anything else is the stories you're telling yourself. It's a narrative you've created. Now, if they answer you and they confirm what you thought, then you can work through it with them or with yourself. Yeah. But until you ask, you're telling yourself stuff based on that goes back to your thing on perspective, based on your perspective or what your lower self. So our higher self will only have our best interest at heart. It's not going to tell us these false stories and these negative things. So it's based on your lower self. So access and channel that leader within, the captain of your ship, and say, hey, I don't want this subordinate role. I don't want this little devil on my shoulder telling me all the things I'm not. How do I talk to my angel, my leader, my captain, whatever you want to call it, and get in touch with your higher self, and your higher self will always guide you in the right place.
I'm glad you sort of touched on the higher self, lower self, because there is a clear distinction between the two. One absolutely, wants the best for us, and the others, I'm not even quite sure what the other wants, but there is a distinction between the two. And I think it's important for people to know when they're straddling between the two, because I think it's fair to say that we all kind of straddle between the two over the course of our day, our lives, or however. but it's where we choose to reside is the key, right?
The lower self is full of fear. So
Okay.
it's not necessarily trying to hurt us.
Okay.
It might be trying to protect us, but from a very, very ego
Gotcha.
perspective.
Got you.
And the higher self is the self that's take the risk. You got this, whatever happens, however it turns out. So when you start to doubt yourself or you start to put yourself down, know that it's your lower self, even if you can't get out of it, even if you're stuck there. Like we talk about straddling, and I don't straddle much anymore. I'm not saying that I don't go there. I do, but it's definitely not on a daily basis.
Right.
And as you start to trust your higher self, you're going to make mistakes and you're going to fall down. But as you start to trust it more and more and live in that space, you're going to be like, wow, this is beautiful. This is amazing. How can I be here more? And you're going to become more conscious and aware of the distinction between the two voices. And you're going to want to be with that voice that serves you rather than that voice that pulls you. And it's the spiritual pull. It's that pull between good and evil. We're in a spiritual crisis in our world right now.
Yeah.
We are in a crisis between good and evil,
Mhm.
and good will prevail, but we're going through some serious transition to get there. And, evil might be rearing its ugly head right now. The same thing goes for each of us.
Yeah.
And so it's those voices and fighting those voices. And one way to kind of make a shift is either when you go to bed at night or when you wake up in the morning to say, oh, sorry, I keep messing with my hair, is to
I
say
have the same problem sometimes too.
Yeah, I can tell. I have a brush I could loan you. Is to say to yourself, what is the intention I want to set for the day or for tomorrow? And maybe you'll set that intention and it won't look the way you thought it would or you wanted to, but by just starting to set the intention and not attaching to the outcome, because in the beginning we may fall down a few times, but by setting the intention, you're saying out loud, this is what I want. And if I can't have it today, maybe it'll come tomorrow. But the more you focus on it, what we focus on expands. I am telling you, I have the most abundant life. People might look at my life and be like, wow, she got divorced. Both of her parents died in a year's period. She had major trauma. I wouldn't want that life, and other things that I've been through. And people may look at that and be like, no, 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 no. I know I have the most amazing life in the world, and I am so grateful for it. And it's all because of what's up here and how I see my life. So just because your life looks on paper as something that you wouldn't want it to be, or you don't have it together, doesn't mean it's not an amazing life. It's how you want to see that life.
That's exactly it. And I think sometimes the biggest challenge is not to look what other people are doing and sort of go, oh, wow, they've got this, and almost project, right? Because we don't know what's behind those layers of what they've had to do to get through this, to get to the point that they're at now. So I think that's a significant point. We've sort of touched on this a little bit. I want to get into sort of like inner dialogue we talk about in our heads, right? And the things that we say to ourselves or how we talk about ourselves. I want to just sort of touch on the sort of significance of, I touched on about being graceful on our own selves. The importance of showing ourselves inner grace to how we speak to ourselves.
Yeah, they say, don't quote me on this, but approximately 80,000, we have 80,000 thoughts that run through our head in a given day.
Wow.
And 90% of them are negative. So you're basically telling yourself, and you don't even hear it because it's on such a deep subconscious level, because you've been doing it. It's been running on repeat for year after year after year. So if you want to shift that, you have to ask yourself, what am I thinking? How am I seeing this? What am I saying to myself right now? You know what? Someone says, great job, Pam. Am I saying, that wasn't a great job? Or am I saying, yeah, Pam, that was a great job?
Yeah.
Or, you did something at work that you got yelled at. Are you saying, I'm always so stupid? Or, you know what, I made a mistake. And you have to ask yourself, what are you saying to yourself for any change to happen? So you got to stop living on autopilot. We are living with our eyes closed. We are, and it's only getting where I have 3 children and they are amazing, but I'm watching their generation. So 2 are 20, they're twin boys. And then my daughter's 17. And I'm watching not just what they're living, what their friends are living. And it's dangerous. And it's scary place they're going. And when you start to hear what you're saying to yourself, you don't even have to change it. Just hear it. then the next step will be, how can I reframe that? What else can I say about myself? We're constantly putting ourselves down.
Yeah.
What are we afraid of? Why
Yep.
can't we be good to ourselves? What success are we afraid of? Why are we afraid of being powerful? We're miracles. Each and every one of us have been chosen to be here at this time. It is not a coincidence. How do you guys not see that? And how do you not go with that and say, wait, this is an opportunity? Our world, it is beautiful. It's amazing. And it's a short time we're here. So when are you going to wake up and instead of saying, hey, it's easier to play small, it's easier to put myself down, step into the power that you were given, that you deserve, and shine your light?
Yeah, absolutely. And so you talk about our children, right? And so my 15-year-old son, I remember I took him to a little mini basketball camp once, and they lined them all up to shoot these free throws, and he missed, and he goes, I can't hit them. I'll never play ever again. And to this day, I always remind him about that. And and he's a great player now, and he loves it and has fun. And I always remind him about where he started and what would have happened if he followed through on his intention to quit because he missed a shot.
That's a
And
great reminder.
and those are important ones, because what they also do, Pam, is I think milestones are important, right? So you encounter something, you get past it, okay, and that's all, and that gives you the, okay, I did that, I can do this, and it builds you up for the next one and the next one and the next one. So it's really important to sort of keep track of those milestones as you go.
Absolutely. And it's also important. Wait, so why did I say I can never do this? Did someone in my past tell me when I missed a basket on the school courtyard that I wouldn't be able to play basketball? Did I tell myself that? Because when we start to understand where it's coming from, we realize it's BS. It's just words. It's noise. Let go of the noise and go, move forward.
Yeah, totally is. And so and because on this podcast we talk so much about the audaciousness and being bold and going after things, and those, again, going back to the self-talk, those are things that help us get there, right? Those are things that let us go, yeah, it's okay to take this risk. And perhaps our mind is telling us it's a risk, but maybe it's not, but we just think that it is, right?
Absolutely. Like a lot of the things that we tell ourselves that we should be fearful of, there's nothing. Listen, the universe has us.
Yeah.
And you may think that's like airy fairy or whatever, but we are in a universe. I don't think anyone's going to argue that. And the universe has our back. And sometimes by having our back, it might mean that we're not listening. So it needs to make us fall down so we can wake up.
Yeah.
So sometimes when we have those things that we're afraid of, and then they actually show up in our reality, it's because we've caused them, because we're not taking that step.
Yes.
We're not being brave enough. We're not being courageous. We're playing small, but the universe will always take care of us.
Yeah. Yeah. Even when we fight our own selves, right? We fight what we're supposed to get. And the universe says, no, I got you. We're going to go to where we got to go. And so that really, when I sort of talk about sort of one of the foundational principles of this podcast, is very much about that, like being bold, going after the things that you're meant to, because they are yours. And so thank you for touching that point as well.
Absolutely. It's unfortunate that we don't think, feel, want to, whatever the reason is, step into our own power. But when you do, when you realize that there's a safety net, and I'm not talking money,
nope,
and I'm not talking even family, we're good, we're going to be okay, then things start to open up.
Yeah.
You have to have faith.
Yeah, you do. The other layer of that, which is also quite significant, is what that does for others that are watching, or that are looking for that source of encouragement, or are going through their own challenges, where all of a sudden like, well, wait a second, Pam did this, and look what she did. This is awesome. Maybe I can too. So there is some significance, not only for ourselves, but for others, by stepping into the person that we're supposed to be.
You're giving other people permission to do the same.
Awesome. Oh, Pam, I'm so glad that I had you on the chat. Like, this is so much fun. You touched earlier about a book. So that's a book you have coming out. I want to give you an opportunity to plug that.
I do. I don't know when it's coming out yet.
Okay.
It's all ready, but it's more about me talking about all this stuff. I just want you guys to know that I have it too, getting comfortable with sharing my story with the world or whoever decides to read it. But it's a book about everything that I've been through, which has been a lot. And like basically, how do you overcome adversity So a chapter will be about the adversity that I went through.
Yep.
The end of the chapter will be, okay, I got through this adversity by forgiveness, forgiving others and forgiving myself, because forgiving ourselves is just as important.
Yes.
And then tips, tools, and techniques to overcome that adversity that are relatable. So like maybe my stuff was really traumatic, but your stuff is just pretty much everyday stuff. It doesn't matter. The tips, tools, and techniques work for everyone.
Right. I always say there's such great power in sharing our stories. And when we have the sort of the strength and courage to step into that world and tell a story so others can hear the impact we have. And sometimes, Pam, we have no idea the impacts that we have on people. When you think of in your own life, like, if you say to someone, hey, who was your favorite teacher growing up, as an example, and you can vividly go to that place and know exactly why, and that teacher may never know. They may never know.
Absolutely. And that's okay that teacher doesn't know, as long as you trust that what you're doing is making an impact. And everything we're doing is making an impact, by the way, not just me and you, but everything everyone's doing. It's just what kind of an impact.
Exactly. Oh, this is great. Pam, thank you so much for being here. For our listeners that wanted to catch up with you or learn more about you or be ready when your book comes out, where can we send them?
I think Instagram at Pam Christian with 2 N's is probably best. Otherwise, the PamChristianGroup.com. Feel free to email me. I usually respond within 48 hours.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate the time and the insights and your experiences. So much appreciated. Thank you for being here, Pam.
Oh, you froze for a minute.
I did. Sorry. There we go.
But that's okay. It's my pleasure. I had such a great time. Thank you for having me, and thank you for putting this out into the world. Thank you.
My pleasure. All the best.
All right, you too.
Oh, well, before I forget, I should the Juice podcast. I neglected to mention that you're a podcaster as well, and you talk about putting things in the world. You do it also. So that's another avenue where people can catch up with you.
Absolutely. Thank you for mentioning that.
All right. Take care.
All right. Have a good one.
Back we are here on the podcast, and my appreciation and thanks goes out to Pam for being here and literally opening up our minds and helping us to understand better the things that we can do to improve our mindset. Really some good stuff, some helpful stuff, and I appreciate you sharing. I think listeners will walk away with a real good understanding of what we can do. Also, big shout out to the Juice podcast. That's Pam's podcast. We got to support one another, right? Podcasts helping podcasts. Pam left us with so much to think about, but if there's just one thing that I take from our conversation, it would be this. Our mindset is made up of a collection of thoughts and beliefs that shape our thought habits. Our thought habits affect how we think, what we feel, and subsequently, what we do. We may encounter situations that bring us to the highest highs or the lowest lows, and regardless which one, there's something there in it for all of us. But it's really about deciding to see the thing that's actually there. And we can't do it if we're not clear in our heads, or if our energy systems aren't clear, or if we're clogged up all the time. So it's really about working on ourselves first, because happiness isn't outside of us. It's inside of us. Hey, listen, if you haven't registered for email notifications of the podcast, please know that you can do so simply by heading over to bestaudaciouslife.com. And all you've got to do is enter in your email address, and you will be immediately notified each and every time we got new content that comes out. So it's that easy, a great way to stay connected. We've reached the end of another episode, and always I got to send a shout out to our incredible listeners. Your audaciousness is so appreciated, and the support is what keeps us going. So thank you. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stevenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.